Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my channel. My name is Sue on Chat to Sue, a channel where we talk about real issues that we really need to talk about as parents, with our children, with the society as a whole. Today's topic is how narcissists are created, right? From childhood all the way to adulthood. Every single human being have got needs. It starts when we are babies. When a baby cries, it's either they are sick or they are hungry or the diaper needs to be changed. And that need needs to be taken care of, right? And as they grow up to be toddlers, they get to a stage where they talk. They'll tell you, Mommy, I'm feeling sad. Daddy, I'm feeling sad. And as a parent, you need to resolve that issue. You need to understand and sit down with them and try and resolve it. That teaches them empathy. If that need is not taken care of, their emotional capacity gets stuck there. That issue is not being resolved. So it means that there is no empathy that's going to be taught, and that child grows up with that need still there. Therefore, their emotional capacity gets stuck right there. That's why we have 50-year-old, 3-year-olds, right? Because their emotional needs were not taken care of by their parents, right? And then you have parents who screams at the mailman, screams at the waiter at the restaurant, screams at the guy that pours petrol in your car. So that what you're teaching your children is that to resolve anything, I need to scream at people. Therefore, that creates whatever it is that the child will grow up with: anger, resentment, intolerance, all that, right? And also discipline. You need to be consistent with disciplining your children. The child spilled milk today. Oh, mom and dad is in a good mood. We're going for ice cream. Tomorrow, the same mistake happens. Oh, there's some screaming and yelling going on. That child feels unsafe. That, okay, so what today I did the same thing that I did yesterday, but the discipline is, it's not the same. What's going on here, right? So let's learn consistency. It is the key. How you speak to your children, be consistent, right? And also help them to regulate their emotions, help them with their emotional needs. That's very important. But anyway, we've got Dr. Ramani who will help us with all of this. Thank you, Dr. Ramani, for your videos. Very educational and informative. Let's hear what she says.
And narcissistic personality styles largely reflect developmental issues. Okay, so these are issues that sort of develop through childhood. The narcissistic personality that emerges in adulthood largely reflects what happened to the person as they came up through childhood into adolescence. Our personalities start to develop from the day we are born pretty steadily until our early to mid-20s. During these years, our brain's rapid phase of development goes throughout childhood and adolescence. In our mid-20s, things slow down a little bit. And I think it's safe to say that by about our mid-20s, kind of like a jello mold that stops shaking, our personalities get pretty well set. There's a little room here and there, but they get pretty well set. So let's start at the difficult end of this, okay? Narcissistic personality styles. Okay, because this is probably the most difficult explanation. Narcissistic personality styles are suggested to be a manifestation of what happens to a personality after being exposed to or adverse childhood experiences, and may be a manifestation of post-traumatic symptomatology. So children and their personalities, these are shaped through neglect, abuse, inconsistency, And in many ways, that some of the patterns that are observed in narcissism are consistent with some of the patterns we see in all kinds of post-traumatic presentations. For example, after trauma, people may experience things like restricted expression of emotion, a chronic perception of threat, even impulsivity. Narcissism can also reflect a disruption in attachment. Now, secure attachment is like the gold standard. It's what we hope that everyone can have. And secure attachments are created by early attachments, early relationships with consistent and available caregivers who give the child a sense of safety within themselves and with the world, who love them, and who foster important skills like self-regulation. Narcissism is not associated with a secure attachment style, but rather with what we term anxious and avoidant attachment styles. And these result in the person never, not as a child and not as an adult, ever feeling safe in close relationships. There's always this push and pull. They're in, they're out, they're in, they're out, and a relative incapacity for deep and sustained closeness and intimacy. This is challenging because having a history of trauma and difficulties with attachment aren't always observed in people with narcissistic personality styles. In addition, people who have those patterns in childhood don't always go on to develop narcissistic personality styles. In addition, it can feel hard to set boundaries or walk away from someone who's had this history, because knowing someone's had this kind of difficult history as a child all plays upon cognitive dissonance, justifications, rationalizations, and just feeling stuck for a person in a relationship with a narcissist. But like I said, probably the bulk of people who have these attachment and trauma issues in childhood don't go on to develop narcissism. So it's not a guaranteed path. Then there is the issue of temperament. Simply put, temperament is, I don't know, for lack of a better way to say it, sort of the biological part of personality. Temperament is actually believed to be inherited and can explain why even from the very beginning of our lives, or an infant's life or a person's life, some infants are more difficult to soothe and some soothe so easily and into childhood, while some children may simply just be more difficult, more behaviorally agitated, more attention-seeking. Temperament can be easier or more difficult. In some cases, temperament can really make things really difficult, because a child with a difficult temperament, quite frankly, definitely is going to have a more difficult go of it. When they're babies, their mothers and fathers may be more frustrated by them. As they grow up, teachers may not like them as much. Adults may find them more difficult as children. And what does that mean? That means that child can have a relatively invalidating experience with the world on the basis of their difficult temperament. Let's face it, on the other side, kids who have easy, resilient temperaments, those kids definitely have an easier go of it. They may be the more favored child because the parent often feels like a more confident parent with them. And they just may have an easier experience of the world because they kind of go with the flow more easily. Temperament may be in part a reason why children are differentially impacted by the experiences of their childhood. And it is very likely that it's the case that a subset of adult narcissists very likely had difficult or sensitive temperaments as children. And then you could see that if they also on top of that had adverse childhood experiences or any other difficult childhood experiences, or even things like disengaged parents, and these difficult kids are more likely to have disengaged parents because the kid was more difficult. So the parent may pull away a little bit or just be more frustrated. That combination of temperament and invalidation can also raise the vulnerability for a narcissistic personality style. However, there are also other developmental pathways at play when we think about how the narcissistic personality style evolves. Some people have called the development of narcissism as being caused by simultaneous over and underindulgence of a child. These are children who are spoiled with getting maybe things, getting experiences, I don't know, like going to a theme park or something, but whose emotional worlds remain really impoverished. It's the psychological equivalent, I don't know, of only being fed junk food. If you kept eating junk food, you wouldn't be hungry, but you're not nourished. For children who are raised in this sort of over and underindulged manner, their material needs are met, but they are not taught how to be comfortable or even have with their emotions or even have their emotions nurtured. They may even in some cases be shamed for having emotions, and they do not get to learn one of the most important things we are supposed to learn in childhood, which is self-regulation, being able to manage feelings and emotions. Now, a not insignificant proportion of narcissists may have had a narcissistic parent or parents themselves. And so certain elements of narcissism, particularly entitlement, rage, other dysregulated demonstrations of emotion, arrogance, superficiality, can all be learned through something called modeling. The child doing what he or she sees. When a child sees something, they tend to repeat it, especially if they see it repeatedly. They'll see the father who yells at the soccer coach, the mom who yells at store clerks and hotel clerks. Kid sees enough of this, and it starts to become normalized and may, not always, but may get mirrored in adult behavior. Narcissistic parents and other parents with difficult personality styles also have really, really bad boundaries. And what they'll do is almost inject their emotions and expectations and their needs into their child all the time. A simple example of this could be when the child does express an emotion. Mommy, I feel sad. And mommy doesn't say the right answer. The right answer is, oh, honey, that's so hard. And she soothes her child, holds her child, and gives the child permission to talk about it, and even recognizes they may not be able to fix it. But what we tend to see a little bit more often in children who are at risk for developing narcissism is a parent who uses the child's emotional state as an opportunity to make it about them. The child says, Mommy, I'm sad. And a narcissistic mother could say, oh, goodness, this sad, you just made mommy sad. When you're sad, mommy's sad. Whoa, hello, what just happened? The child just learned now that their emotions are a problem. The child doesn't want to have the responsibility for making mommy sad. So now the child says, I'm sad, and now mommy just made it about her. Not only do they start negating and avoid sharing their emotions, but they may not even fully understand where their emotions end and the emotions of other people begin. And in adulthood, where we see this happen for narcissistic individuals, this is manifested as the narcissist, again, not seeing that difference between them and others, not fully.
Oh, wow. That was informative. I have cut the video because it was quite long, so I will put the whole thing in the description below for those who want to watch it. But yeah, let us raise our children with healthy emotional capacity, right? We don't want them when they grow up, they become project for someone else, right? And now we know better. We know better than our parents. And if you feel you need some help regarding emotional needs, or you've got issues that needs to be resolved, yeah, find yourself psychological professional help, because you'll never know what you will find there. But yeah, thank you for watching my video. Please like, share, and subscribe. There'll be someone who might need to hear all of this, right? I'm sending you so much love and light. Till we meet again. Bye.